lost all control. Gravity is all that I know. She's over me. She's over me. She caught me with her hypnotic dance. She holds me here with only a glance. She's over me. She's over me.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of all ages, welcome to the Paranormal Portal. I'm your host, Brent Thomas, and these are the Night Terrors. I hope you're all excited for this. I'm excited to be doing it every night right here on YouTube at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So right as of now, 7 days a week, I'm here doing this, and hopefully you will be as well. I love it when you guys come in and hang out with me while we go through some ghostly encounters. That's what primarily the Night Terrors are. It doesn't have to be exclusively what we cover on here, but of course, I think probably ghost stories are the one thing that the most people probably can relate to. Either you've had a ghost story of your own, or you know somebody who has. I mean, we all have people that have seen some weirdness or seen it ourselves, or both. And so I like covering the ghost stories just because, to me, it's an incredibly dynamic phenomena. I think that it really illustrates a lot of strangeness going on, and a lot of the weird nature of reality that we really don't understand. So I love these stories, and I hope you love them as well. It's always a lot of fun to dig into this, and again, to hear from you guys as well. The phone lines are open throughout the course of the show. 720-923-0500 is the number to call in if you've got a ghostly encounter or paranormal encounter of your very own. You don't have to call in and tell ghost stories. If you got some other story, Bigfoot, UFO, whatever, I'm happy to hear about it. Psychic, something weird, dreams. We've been hearing a lot about people's dreams lately, and I find those really interesting because I think that there's a lot to those. I think dreams can be just ridiculous, and they can be incredibly profound on both a personal and spiritual level, that they can be messages in many cases. I know I've had some profound dreams. There's no question about it. And to me, they're absolutely 100% real. But, that's my take on it. Whatever your take is, of course, is your own take. But so the platform is always open to hear from you guys if you want to call in. Again, 720-923-0500 is the number for the portal. If you don't like calling in, if that kind of freaks you out, you can always email us. If you have story or stories that you'd like to share, you can always email us at paranormalportalradio@gmail.com. So, love the podcast with Duke. Think it was episode 4 or 5. Yeah. Listening to them all again. Thank you, Taco. Yeah. Duke's pretty easy to interview. Not only because, I mean, he's got his own show, which really helps. So he's not, he's comes from such a place of knowledge and insight and information of things that he's tracked down. So it's pretty hard to have a bad episode with Duke. You got to work pretty hard at it to screw that up, I think. So Duke's kind of a ringer in a lot of ways. So it was a lot of fun, but yeah, and he likes to talk too. He says I'm a blabbermouth, but as a host, I'm here to tell you those are the greatest interviews, when you have people on that love to talk. So yeah, thank you for that. And I guess we're all set here. So yeah, thank you. I am heady. I don't know. It was just froggy that night. So I literally, by the tail end of the show, I had finally gotten coughed up some stuff I didn't recognize, and I felt a whole lot better. So, but yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. But anyway, I hope you all are ready, because it's time for bed. All right, that means we're officially underway here on the Paranormal Portal Night Terrors. So if you're ready for some spookiness, I'm ready to bring it to you. That's as good of a Scottish brogue as I can do. So I hope that was good, but it's all I know. I can only do like a bastardization of the Shrek brogue. I can't do. Like when you listen to Kev Baker talk, he's just got that cool flow to everything. And well, I mean, it's his mother tongue. So there's no wonder that he does it so well and I don't. But anyway, Taco says, Paranormal Portal, may I use your Paranormal Portal lettering? I want to make y'all a plasma cut aluminum sign. Hell yeah, you can. I'll even send you, if you give me your email, I'll send you the higher resolution files that I have, if that would help you. Yeah, for sure, brother. I'd be honored. Thank you so much. That would be way cool. So just email me at paranormalportalradio at gmail.com and I'll send you that over. All right. I can do it for you. Well, that's beautiful, man. I appreciate that a lot. That would be awesome. I'd be incredibly honored. Sorry about that. I had to cough really loudly, and that doesn't sound so good in microphones. So we are, yeah, but you got my permission, Taco. If you want to just wing it and do it with what you have, that's fine. But if you want some higher resolution images, just let me know. I can send them over. Let's see. The first story tonight is coming from Oregon. It's just right next door to us here, because I'm in the north tip of Idaho. And so Oregon is just right on the neighborhood there, right in the neighborhood. So let's get into this and see what's going on in Oregon. And let's see. It says, in my life, I've had a number of odd and unexplainable things happen to me. I've been possessed and I've been attacked by a malicious entity. So far as I know, all the houses I've ever lived in have been haunted. As unfortunate as this sounds, the house that I'm living in now has more of a kinder entity inhabiting it. I only know that we have an old Indian burial ground close to my house, and this is a possible place where the spirit might have come from. Anyway, I experienced something I'll never forget. I was lying in bed one night, and I couldn't sleep because I could hear footsteps going up and down the stairs. I was so frightened that I ran down the stairs to my mom as the footsteps walked past me. Oh, that's terrible. And I told her that why I couldn't sleep, and she told me that she had heard of a similar story and told me to tell the spirit to leave me alone. Well, I walked slowly upstairs and listened for the footsteps, and I crawled into bed and laid down, and after a few minutes, the footsteps started again. Well, I lay in fear as the footsteps walked past my door, and I struggled to find the words to tell the spirit to leave without angering it. I could bear it no longer. I heard the footsteps approaching my door, so I sat up and said, "Please," I said, "I need to sleep, and your footsteps are keeping me awake. Please go away." I quickly lay down just in time to hear the footsteps slowly fading away. I never heard the footsteps again, but a number of unexplainable things still happen within my household. And ladies and gentlemen, that's a great example of how to deal with 95 or 98% of the hauntings out there, is just to have a dialogue. Because, if it's residual, there's not much anybody can do about it. It's just, and again, residual haunting is just like a recording playing over and over and over. And there's not much you can do about it. It's just the way it is. But with intelligent hauntings, you can have a dialogue. You can say, "Hey, look, this is a problem. This isn't working out so well for me. I'm fine with you being here if, and then list off whatever makes it appropriate for you." Or you can tell them that they have to move on if you so choose. We do have a right to to not have a slumber party at our house. I mean, you don't have to have that, but I think, it's up to the individual. Some people are okay with those presences being around as long as they're, not malicious and hurtful. But other people are like, hell no, I don't want any part of this. And that's fine too. There's certainly no right or wrong for that. It's just whatever you're capable of putting up with yourself. But I personally don't mind most of it. I actually had some really, really bizarre things happen just a couple of nights ago here, and it was just off the charts bizarre. And even then, it was freaky stuff. But honest to God, it didn't freak me out. And I think it's because it's really not malicious. It's really not intended to be malicious activity. I think when you're around evil, when we're around evil, we know we're around evil. We just pick it up. We just know when something feels wrong, and it'll feel wrong just in your gut. It's those, the quote unquote gut feelings. Pay attention to those especially when you're dealing with the supernatural, because that's going to give you a pretty big indicator of whether you should be worried or not. And that's maybe a higher self poking through going, no, leave that alone, get away. Or, or a guide or a guardian angel or whatever you want to, attribute that to. But, we do seem to be able to tell when there's true evil around. I mean, even, every story that, has been terribly negative that people always talk about, I walked into the room and it felt off, it felt wrong. And that's kind of it. So, it's Taco Tuesday. Taco, you crack me up. But I think you can have a dialogue with most of these and just say, look, it's okay if you're here, or no, you need to quit this. You need to not scare me or my kids or my family or whatever. You can't terrorize the dog or the cat or whatever. Fill in the blanks. But a lot of times these entities, I think, just want to be acknowledged. They're just stuck in this state. They're stuck in a place that maybe they don't always understand. And maybe they're really confused, but if you acknowledge that they're there, you recognize that they're there, and you don't just communicate with them. I brought this up before on the show a few times, but I remember covering a story a while ago, and I thought it was actually brilliant. They had a really aggressive haunting going on. And so they didn't really know what to do, and so they kind of gave the ghost a nickname. And they started talking to it regularly, like, hey, Carl, I'm home. Yeah, it was a really crappy day, but I'm glad to be back. Man, it was terrible. And just having these discussions, acknowledging this presence over and over throughout their day, or, hey, Carl, I got to run down to the store. I'll be back in a bit. That kind of stuff. And the activity absolutely nearly flatlined. There was still enough going on that they knew that the entity was still there, but it wasn't disruptive anymore. It was just like, somehow by virtue of discussing things with the spirit, it became much calmer and much more tolerant of them or whatever. I'm not sure why it was acting up in the first place, but it was acknowledged, and that went a long way. And they said it was peaceful after that until they finally eventually moved out. Now the next people that took over, I don't know how that went for them, but you can try that as well. Give it a name that you want and or that feels right, and just start having a dialogue. Maybe it'll turn it around if it's something really negative. Just some ideas. I don't know. If you need it gone, get it gone, though. You don't have to put up with being afraid in your own home. That's definitely not okay. So the next story is coming from Minnesota. My old stomping grounds, Minnesota. I'm a Minnesota boy at heart, but I don't miss those Minnesota winters, I'll tell you that. I live in the north of Idaho, as I said, but the winters here, although there's more snow, the temperature is so much more mild than over in Minnesota. It gets so cold over there. So I don't miss that at all. But anyway, this is, it's got to do with a bunch of things. It says miscellaneous, so because there's categories assigned to these stories, and this one says miscellaneous, so I got a bit of a headache here, so hold on. Got to take some aspirin. Let me wash this down. I'm just taking care of all my personal affairs as I'm doing the show because we're family. And, I'm not going to pretend for you guys. I can only be me. So it says, I realize this is an out-of-body experience and not a ghost story, so it may not be published, but I look at this as my ghost story. I have 2 more stories in my life to come out yet at a later time, and that will keep me up to date on my experiences. Thank you for reading. Ever had an out-of-body experience? Well, it happened to me in the early 80s when I was not even trying. It was a cloudless, sunny, warm summer day, and I was returning home from work. I was dead tired and just wanted to take a nap. I'd normally not waste a day sleeping when it was this nice, but that day sleep took over. I pulled up my driveway and I saw a truck back by the chicken shed, And I forgot the landlord told me he had a guy coming over to redo the roof. And I did not see him as he was on the other side of the roof pounding nails with his hammer. But he was out of sight. But I thought, great, I'll have to try and sleep with that noise. I entered the house and went downstairs to my apartment, and it was a small house with the basement as a rental. And I went in the bedroom and put on a pair of shorts and turned on the fan and pulled the sheet only over me on the bed. And I closed my eyes and tried to sleep with the continued hammering. Well, it was 10 to 4 o'clock. 10 before 4, okay. And that's when my journey began. I was lying on my back, all stretched out, when I felt my eyes begin to pull upward to my brain. My eyes felt like they were fluttering, and then I felt the tension build up in my body. It was the oddest feelings. My arms and legs began to tighten up and flex, as well as my stomach muscles. And I was so tense, but in reality, I was completely relaxed. I know this is physically impossible, but there I was, experiencing both sensations as I laid there. I could still hear the noise outside, and this may have contributed to what was happening. And then I felt myself get out of bed, walk out of the room, and at this point I realized I may be dreaming, but it really felt different. It dawned on me I may be experiencing my first OBE, or out-of-body experience. But I really wasn't sure. I never heard of anyone experiencing the tense/relaxed feeling, and I did not look back at my body, which is common to look back with experiences that I read about. I noticed the living room was just as it is. It was not distorted as in a dream. And I went over to the office window and looked out, and the sunlight was different looking somehow. And I then believed that I was out of body. My consciousness was floating about, and I kept hearing the pounding, so I thought I'd have a little fun, and I felt as if I was floating more than walking through that apartment. And I left my door open and walked up the steps, and I'm not sure how I got through the back door, but I was outside the house and was astounded by the feel and look of the sun around me. It was like I could see more in the air than normal. The feel of the sun was more comforting, and this was a feeling and sight that I've never experienced before. I saw the man working on the shed, and he was on my side, and I could see him. He was an older man. He had gray, short hair and a beard, and he was heavy set and wearing a red shirt and denim overalls. Well, I floated out to him and was right beneath him, and he looked in my direction and acted like he didn't see me, and I started laughing. He did not hear me, and I realized that this is for real. I'm astral traveling. How cool is that? I then yelled at him saying, "Hey, could you hold down the damn noise? I'm trying to sleep downstairs." Well, he did not respond, and I turned again to get more shingles. He turned again to get more shingles, and he was facing me, still not seeing me. And then I started to do cartwheels and make funny noises, and there was no response. This was amazing to me, the most awesome feeling. Then I heard a truck pulling up and knew it was my landlord, and I raced back into the house in a panic. I'm not sure why, but he usually knocks on my door, and for some reason I felt I needed to get back to my body. I went to my office and saw the truck with him getting out, and I closed my eyes and wished to get back to my body, but it didn't work. I started to panic, maybe I'll never get back, and then I just felt my body unwind and my arms and legs being released from the tension and straightening out of the ball shape I was in, and my eyes began to flutter again, and I opened them. I was in bed. As I started out, I looked at the clock and read 4. 10 minutes had passed by like it was in real time. Well, I bolted out of bed in a feeling of utopia. I couldn't believe what I just experienced. How could I prove it? I felt like I just got 8 hours of sleep, really refreshed and excited. And I could hear the pounding of the roofer outside and remembered that I have not seen him until my experience. So there was my proof. The landlord had left. He was just there to get the garbage and didn't bother me. And I went outside and saw the man, and he was exactly the same as I saw him. The same clothes and size, and I couldn't believe it. He then saw me and waved at me, and the first time he saw me, I waved back and shook my head in disbelief. The sun had its normal feeling to me, as usual. I knew I had experienced something most people would never have happen. I wish now that I would have gone back to tell the guy what had just happened, but instead I went back in, grabbed a beer, and wrote this experience down so I'd never forget the fresh details. I've always wanted to experience this again, and after 20 years later, I never have. I was around 25 years old then, and I have to wonder if that man felt like someone was with him at the time and watching him, but I guess I'll never know. I do very much believe in the OBE experience. Wow, that's pretty powerful. I don't think I've had one that I'm aware of, but it does sound kind of cool. Now, I've had lucid dreams, and those are really cool, where you can just kind of decide to do things and you can just start flying and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. And those are amazing. I really love those, but I don't know about an actual out-of-body experience like this. I think it would be amazing. And if you could really get good at doing it, just imagine what you could do or what you could experience and see that you couldn't normally do. I think that sounds really exciting. But I have heard that there's cautionary tales about that there can be entities in the astral realm that may go after people that are out of body. And I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't know what to think about that. Could there be? Sure, I guess. But there are warnings of make sure you never get that wire cut, because there's apparently a line of light, like an umbilical cord, that connects you to your body while you're in the astral form, in the astral traveling or out of body experience. And they say, all these people say that if it gets cut, you die for real, or you just don't get to come back, and perhaps something else takes over. I don't know, but that's all kinds of creepy. I don't know if it's true or not. It's just some cautionary things I've heard of when I've run across this in the past. And maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If, you know what, I never did connect the phones. I never did call my own phone line. So apparently the phones are not open yet. But they will be here shortly. I'm sorry about that. That was, that lovely Skype sound. That's, that's my lack of planning, I guess. I got distracted just before I went live here because my oldest son has started streaming on Twitch. So I was checking out his stream. And thank you. Thank you, Julia. They're open now, ladies and gentlemen. The phone lines are up. So if you want to call in and share anything, or if you have more information about out-of-body experiences, maybe you've had one, let us know. I'd love to hear about it. I have not, so I don't have any personal experience to draw on for that, but it sounds incredible. It really does. All right. Ooh. Why was that at the bottom though? I don't know. Oh, I know why. Okay. Let me get some more opened up here. I got through the ones that I had open from last night. And now we'll open a fresh batch right here for you guys. Okay, so. Oh, that's kind of fitting. That's wild. Okay, so this story is actually entitled Night Terrors, and I just pulled it up randomly. I didn't even see the title. That's why I'm laughing, because it's, of course, these segments are called Night Terrors on our Paranormal Portal platform. So kind of interesting, but this story is from 2008, so it's quite old, but nevertheless, it may be absolutely valid. So this one is Children Who See Spirits. For a 6-month period, my son would have episodes that people typically attribute to night terrors. This began at age 2.5 and ran until just after his 3rd birthday. He slept in a twin bed nestled in the corner of his room with his 1-year-old brother sleeping kitty corner to him in his own bed, in his own twin bed. Ian had begun to wake up in the middle of the night hysterically screaming and crying. When his mother and I would walk into his room to see what was wrong, he didn't even acknowledge our presence. His eyes were open, but nobody was home. When we tried to hug or comfort him, he would scream, "No," and push us away. Eventually, after 15 minutes or so, or maybe it just felt like that long, he would calm down and get back to sleep. These episodes would occur once a week in the beginning, and eventually increased to every night in the week towards the end. After consulting his pediatrician and countless other parents, the consensus was that his behavior was the result of night terrors. All of the signs pointed to an accurate diagnosis. He would resist comforting, he would be hysterical, and he seemed disoriented. I don't know why that came out so weird out of my mouth. I meant disoriented. He went with this. We went with this, and so we did our best to get him through these terrors. My son would speak to me when I was putting him to bed about shadows that were in the corner of his room that made him feel uneasy. I showed him that his teddy bear on top of his bookshelf was casting a shadow, and he did not seem convinced. He was and remains sensitive to spirits. This quote-unquote gift was passed down to him through me, and I was aware of the multiple entities in and around the house. What I did not realize was that he might be able to sense them as well. One night, after having countless discussions over the weeks about the shadows in his room, he again awoke screaming. I ran into his room to comfort him, and this time I held him in my arms, a no-no according to professional opinion during a night terror, and I was able to assess the situation more clearly as this was now a daily routine and ceased to thrust me in the role of helpless parent. To my surprise, I was able to sense an entity in the corner of his room, and I screamed at the top of my lungs, "You leave my son alone and get the hell out of my house." That was the last night terror he ever had. We have since moved, not due to the paranormal activity, and live in a house that is active as well, and there were no spirits when we first moved in, but after a few months that all changed. Ian is now 5 years old, and he is becoming more aware of the spirit world and is better able to verbalize what he thinks and feels. That, however, is another story, which I'll post at a later date. Does anyone have any comment regarding my son's experience? The select few people I have told, all skeptics, try to pawn it off as coincidence. I happened to order the entity out of my house during my son's last episode. Whether I did that or not, that was going to be the last time he had the night terror. I feel differently, but I'm always open to all opinions. Thanks for taking time to read my first posted experience. I don't know. I think if you believe in coincidences, then I guess that's possible. It was just a synchronicity of sorts, but I think it probably has a lot more to do with the fact that this person felt a spirit there as well, commanded it to leave, and it had to obey. For whatever reason, maybe this person was very spiritually strong. Maybe spirits are bound by some kind of rules that we don't know about. I don't know maybe if they're truly demanded out, that they have to go. And I say truly because a lot of times people say things, and they're not really sure of themselves. No, you gotta leave. Well, that's not really commanding something to leave. That's more of like a willful suggestion. And I think it truly takes a real clear mind to push things like this out. I don't think you can be wishy-washy or coming from a place of fear when you do that. It's just got to be like literally righteous indignation or absolute anger. That seems to be the most effective in situations like this. But when it comes to your kids, you just don't want to mess around. You don't want to do that wrong because they're not able to protect themselves. They're not able to do anything other than to be very afraid and feel very vulnerable and scared. So that's where it's our responsibility to step in and take care of those things as much as we're able. And if we can't, then we can find somebody that can. But yeah, you got to listen to those kids. When they say they experience something, they usually are right. All right, the next one is from New York. It says, I knew that I could see and feel things that other people could not from a really young age. It was hard growing up with all this reality without anyone I could talk to that understood my situation. My parents would constantly tell me that ghosts aren't real or it's just your imagination. Well, I knew I wasn't crazy, and my imagination was what I used when I drew or had wrestling matches between my G.I. Joe figures. My imagination was not causing me to see and feel ghostly presences. It was what I turned to in an attempt to keep myself from being terrified when I was having an experience. When I was 19, my friend Kathy's mother had bought a house, and she invited me and our other close friend Corey to the house to take a look around shortly after they closed on the house. Well, it was exciting for us. I lived in New York City, and we all grew up in apartment buildings, so buying a house was a big deal. We went through the obligatory walkthrough of the entire house, checking every closet, nook, and cranny, and after seeing the entire downstairs where she was going to live, we went upstairs to the place where she was going to rent to another family, and everything was fine up until we got to the master bedroom, and she showed us a long walk-in closet. Although this is over 10 years ago, and I've never gone back upstairs since, I remember the physical details of that closet vividly. The door to the closet was in the back left corner of the room, and when you walked in and upon opening the closet door, you would turn left and the closet went the length of the room. At the end of the closet was another door that led to the attic. Yeah, that's creepy. There were no stairs to get to the attic. It was simply separated from the end of the closet by the door. The girls went into the closet and I started to as well, but then I could sense a nasty presence and I stopped dead in my tracks. They opened the attic door and the feeling seemed to get even stronger. When they walked into the attic, they noticed that I wasn't following them and they called for me. I'm good right here, I told them. They joked about the fact that I was 6'3", 250-pound athlete that was scared to walk into a closet that two girls barely over 5 feet tall had no problem going into. Well, I didn't care what they said. I wasn't going near that closet, and I wanted out of that top floor altogether. As is customary with Catholic Hispanic families, they were having the house blessed before moving in. The priest and congregation, 12 members of the church group, showed up at the house about 15 minutes after we came back downstairs, and he would walk into every room and the closet saying a prayer and blessed every inch with holy water. And again, everything was normal until we got upstairs to the walk-in closet. The priest opened the closet door and froze in mid-step. He was about to walk in, and he says on the outside, he stayed on the outside and splashed holy water inside from the open door. My friend Kathy whispered, "That's weird. He walked into every other room and closet. Why is he stopping here?" When he was finished with the blessing of the closet, he asked everyone present to stand in a circle and join hands for a prayer. And then he said that there is evil trapped in beyond that door, and we're going to pray and ask Jesus to expel it. At the time, Corey shouted, "Oh my God, Jeff, that's what you said." Yeah, she used the Lord's name in vain in front of a church congregation, but nobody seemed to notice. On the other hand, maybe I was too caught up in the moment to realize that they did. She looked horrified, and Kathy did as well. The next thing I know, all these strangers in the circle, including the priests, are staring right at me. It was an uncomfortable feeling, to put it mildly. Well, the priest led us in prayer, and we walked back downstairs, and I was only there for a few minutes after that before I decided that I needed to leave. I kept noticing the congregation glancing over at me, and they were spread out in smaller groups now, but every group seemed to be glancing over at me in the midst of their conversations. I was completely uncomfortable and told my friends that I was leaving to go home, and on my way out the door, the priest caught up to me and stopped me on the porch. And he asked me what I felt, and I described it as best I could, and he told me that I was given a gift from God, and that I should appreciate it and learn to accept it and utilize it. I wasn't up for becoming a priest. Excuse me. And that is where I was afraid that the conversation was going, so I nodded politely and left for home. I've never gone back to that house since, and I'm not sure if it's clean or not, but I can tell you that I will never go back to see for myself. Oof. Oh, man. That's got to be terrible. Terrible, but we got a call here, so let's go to this call and see just what's going on. This is area code 605. You're on the air.
Hey, buddy, what's up?
Hey, how you doing?
Good. Do you know who this is?
Is this Taco?
It's Taco Tuesday.
I got you, brother. How you doing, man? Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, not a problem. Good, you?
I'm doing good, man. It's always a pleasure doing the shows
Good.
and hearing from you guys. So I'm on a roll, brother.
Good. Yeah, you've had some good stories tonight. I was in chat mentioning a couple stories that I had that I figured I better just call in.
That sounds great, brother.
Um,
What do you got?
Awesome. This was probably one of the first experiences I've had. Now, wasn't necessarily me, but at the time, at my parents' old house. This is back when my parents moved out and my sister just bought the house.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was probably 3 or 4 years after that she moved out. And we were sitting there talking one day, and she told me this story. She said that my old bedroom was where her son took over. He was staying there. And she said for about 4 or 5 months, she would wake up right around 2:30, 3 o'clock every night for about 2, 3 months, and she would hear him talking, and she couldn't figure out what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So she fell back to sleep, because he wasn't crying, he wasn't doing none of that. And then finally she asked him one day, she goes, she said, why have you been up at this time talking? Who are you talking to? What are you talking to? And he looked at her and he goes, oh, it's my friend in the attic. He comes down at night and talks to me.
Oh, jeez.
And she asked me to come over, so I went over there and I looked around, and there was nothing in the attic. And I was like, in all the years I was there, I said I never had anything like that. But apparently, the friend he had in the attic would come down 2:30, 3 at night, talk to him for, I think he told me 15 minutes, and then the kid would just disappear.
But wow.
And yeah, that was creepy. So we're long since moved out of that house. But
Did they move out too,
that was
or
one of them
did it
things.
go on?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they moved out.
Okay.
That was a whole different story. She had some hard times falling in.
Oh,
She moved out, but
sure.
she told me about that, and I mean, I could see she almost turned a pale color when she was telling me this, and her arm hair kind of stood up. I could see it, and she was pretty genuine about it. And I asked my nephew about it, and he goes, "Oh yeah, he never gave me a name, but he'd come down and talk."
And they never asked him to do anything creepy or anything. It was just like, hey, how you doing, kind of stuff.
Yeah, they just got down there, and he apparently this whatever it was just wanted to talk, and there was no weird noises or nothing going on. But I mean, there were a couple nights I stayed there, and I heard him talking to him or her, late at night.
That's
and
weird.
I was just like, oh man.
Yeah, that's weird. And I mean, I do believe that most presences, most presences like that, spiritual presences, are not evil. They're not looking for trouble. But it's, when they're talking to a child, of course, it's like, as a parent, I can't imagine just letting some stranger have this continuing dialogue with my child without me knowing what the hell they're talking about. That would freak me out.
Yeah, no, if my daughter now, if all of a sudden I wake up in the middle of the night 4 or 5 times and she's talking or something, I'm going to go in there and be like, what's going on,
Yeah. Say no slumber party. Let's
so
go.
that's weird. Yeah. No slumber party. No.
Wow.
But that's one of the stories. And then I actually remembered, I had another one I wanted to tell you about here.
Okay.
I don't know if this was just something crazy that happened, but bought my first house. This was 8, 9 years ago, something like that. And I was downstairs with my buddy, and it was an unfinished basement. There was one room that was finished, partially finished, and it had the circuit breaker box in there, whatever you want to call that stupid thing. And it was late at night and we had all the lights off, and we were sitting up there playing our games or whatever, and I was just like, dude, we need to go downstairs, and because I've heard that a lot of paranormal stuff, if you have a flashlight or your camera, you snap a picture and the flash snaps, sometimes you can catch things that aren't there.
Mm-hmm.
Just from random TV shows. And I'm like, let's go try this. So we went through the whole basement and we took about 30, 40 pictures. And anyways, about the 12th picture in, we were in that bedroom and I took 5 shots,
Mm-hmm.
and we went through them and there was nothing there, nothing there, nothing there. But on the 3rd frame, there was a white splotch or ball or splat or something like 4 feet away from the camera, but it was only in that frame. There was nothing else there, so I didn't know if it was dust or what it was. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, just from what you're explaining, it's hard. I mean, it could be just something that got knocked up, like dust or some kind of other material like that, just from you guys being down there. But if you're not noticing that in the other frames, then I don't know if that's as likely. I mean, it's possible that you captured a spirit, and the thing with spirits is they can allegedly move just about as fast as they can think. I mean, I don't think they're not encumbered by a body, and they exist as energetic beings. So I think they can probably just kind of just whisk right through huge spaces in the blink of an eye. So it's possible that it just shot through the frame on that one, and you happen to catch it. But without seeing it, it's really hard to say. I could only speculate, but if you believe you caught something, then maybe you really did. If there's no reflection, nothing reflecting the flashback, that's a big first thing to check. Make sure you're not getting a lens flare from a flash. Make sure that it doesn't look like a dangling hair or something that might have just drifted close to the lens and caught the flash enough to illuminate into the frame. Things like that. If you can look at it and go, I don't think it's that, then maybe you really did catch something. I mean, I do believe in spirit photography. I just think that a lot of stuff out there is being represented as like orbs and spirits, and I don't think that in most of those cases, I don't think that that's actually what they caught. But it's not that I don't believe. I just think that a lot of people aren't really clear on how things can be in the frame that are really mundane and normal, but they may look fantastic.
Yeah, see, I since deleted the picture because we were just whatever, we didn't really think about it. We're just like, oh, look, something, and like, whatever. But I just remember that because I was in chat and I was telling him about the thing with my nephew.
Mm-hmm.
And Nessie told me to call in, and a couple other people told me to. So I was like, Taco Tuesday, let's call in. Let's give him a story here. So
no, I appreciate it, brother. It's always great to hear from you. I think it's wonderful when you guys call in, man. It's always my highlight.
Yeah, I wish more people would call in too. I'm always curious and interested in these stories, but I can tell you for certain, with everything I have, that my nephew was talking to something.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
I was there twice and I heard it. And
well,
it was, I was in that house from 6th grade to 12th grade plus 4 years, and I never had anything happen.
Wow.
And then they moved in, and then a year and a half later, he was talking to someone that would come down out of the attic.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I think, as a parent or somebody that knows their child or knows a child, you can tell when a child is making up a conversation versus when they're having a conversation. I mean, kids are creative and incredible, but they're not real good actors, So if it sounds like one side of a conversation, then chances are it very well could be. Because you can listen to a kid playing with toys and having fake dialogue, and it sounds like a kid making up dialogue, but you can also listen to a kid having a telephone conversation with somebody and you can only hear half of it, and you can tell they're talking to someone, And so it's the same thing in these situations where it's like, well, the imaginary friend is asking them questions that, it's not just popping up in their head, or they're talking about things that my child just wouldn't think of, So
Yeah.
I think that a lot of cases, in many cases, these imaginary friends have a strong possibility of at least in a lot of them, of potentially being, something that used to live and now doesn't, somebody who's deceased or a earthbound spirit of some kind. But I wouldn't say like all or even half, but I would say that, I think if we were just to know, all of a sudden know that how many of these are actually disincarnate or disembodied spirits, I think that it would shock all of us how many kids have been talking to these things for, generations.
Well, yeah, innocence can bring that out, I think, because as you get older, you just kind of break these things out. But as a kid, your mind is so open to everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, kids don't have the
Yeah.
blinders that we adults have. They don't have schedules and responsibilities and things dragging at their attention all day long. So they're pretty much wide open. They're experiencing the world as it is, and that's, I guess, probably part of why they're usually the first to realize a spirit is there. After, it's like dogs, then children, and then the adults at some point after that.
Yeah.
So,
I'm actually, my daughter's 2 years old now, and I'm actually getting pretty excited for her to have an imaginary friend because I probably have some interesting stories to be able to call in and talk to you with. So,
well, let's hope it's a good
well,
imaginary friend. You know.
as long as they're good experiences,
Yeah.
it'll be great. But even if they're not, I'm still going to call in.
Yeah, if they're not, call in too because we'll help you take care of it for sure, brother.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely not going to not let all you guys know because y'all are the paranormal family. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, brother, it's cool. And I will be waiting for you to come and remember some more and share them on the show, brother.
I hope so. I'm still waiting for my buddy to get a hold of me. He said
Okay.
he was on a business trip, and I really want him to get on the phone and we can discuss that blue thing crypt that I saw between those two trees I was telling you about a while back.
Yeah. Yeah, that'll be a good time, man.
Yeah,
When he gets back,
I've been trying to get a. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say I'll be looking forward to when he gets back and he can call in with you.
Yeah, he's back. I think he just forgot about it. He's
Oh.
getting married soon. Blah blah blah. Whatever. But I'll get him on the
Blah
show,
blah
and
blah.
we'll definitely get a good conversation going here for you. So.
All right, brother. Well, thanks for calling in and being a part of tonight's show. I really appreciate it.
No, thank you, man. Thank you very much, and everyone in chat, and y'all have a great night. And I'm gonna go right back to listening. So,
All right. I'll be talking to you.
all right, thanks a lot, brother.
See ya. That's very cool. Very cool. I love hearing from you guys. And anybody else wants to call in, the number is 720-923-0500. That is your passport to the paranormal portal. And the number's right up here above my finger if you're looking at your YouTube screen. It's right there. It's kind of small, but it is there if you look for it. So that is how you get a hold of us if you've got something you'd like to share. I think OBEs are kind of interesting too. I've been kind of, my head's kind of reeling from that story still of that experience that person had. I think that sounds really incredible. I know there are there are YouTube videos and so a listener once had contacted me and they had found a YouTube video and it's almost a hypnosis thing. And it's not quite, it's kind of like a guided meditation, but it guides people towards having an out of body experience. And this listener, she had never had one before. And she called me all excited. And she's like, I got to tell you. Or no, she emailed me or messaged me, one of the two. I don't remember. It was like a couple of years ago. But she messaged me and said, oh my God, I found this video. And she sent me a link. And she said, I just did this and it worked. It worked. I can't believe it. I just had an out of body experience. And she was just ecstatic about it. And it was just this incredible experience and profound and amazing. Now, the odd part of that is that it worked the first time. She did share with me that she listened to it other times after that, trying to duplicate that experience, and it did not work again. So it was kind of like a one-off thing, and maybe because she knew what to expect, maybe that somehow her conscious mind overrode the experience because she had listened to it before, but those things are out there. So if you're interested in experimenting with that kind of stuff, I never did listen to it myself. I don't know, I just didn't have the time or didn't take the time or whatever, but it really was an incredible experience according to her. If you want to experience OBE's out of body experience, you can certainly look for those on YouTube. They're out there, and try them out. If they work, let us know. I want to hear about it, because I think that by birth we have ability, we have potential to do things that we just can't even imagine, and unlocking those things little by little throughout our life, I think, is part of our journey. So if you guys ever end up finding it, or finding something like it and do that and have a great experience or a bad experience, let me know. I do want to know, because I want to know both sides of it. Like if there's a bad experience, I want to know about it, because I don't want to continue to encourage people to do that without a little caveat warning in case there is some negative experiences. But I think that's incredibly interesting. So this next story, let's see what time we got here. I'm sorry. I haven't been minding the clock at all tonight, so I don't know where we're at. Oh my God. Well, this next story that I had pulled up was very long, so let me find a shorter one here. Let me find a shorter two. There's two short ones. This one's longer. Okay, so I'll do these two shorter stories, and this will be, I guess, the end of the show tonight. Is it Tuesday night, really? Yes, it is. Okay, so tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, Don will be joining me here on the portal as well for the 2-hour show. Oh my God, I got another call. Let's get to this call. And rather than stories, I'd rather talk to you guys instead. Area code 812, you're on the air.
Howdy, I called you the other night with some experiences that I'd had with like Bigfoot and stuff like that. And I told you the story about my grandfather being was taken on board a spacecraft.
Mm-hmm.
You remember?
I
Anyway, I was going to tell you my experiences with out-of-body
please.
experiences.
Please do.
I've had a few of them. And I'll have to say, that when I do have them, it's like as I'm falling asleep. But
Okay.
when you have those out of body experiences, the best way that I can describe what happens is your body starts vibrating at a rate that's just out of this world, and it's not like a vibration like say like you're having a seizure or anything like that. And the best way that I could describe it to you is like a tuning fork. A tuning fork is a solid object, but when you hit it and it starts vibrating at a fast frequency, it'll make a secondary image of itself. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yep. Absolutely.
And that frequency of vibration, when you come out of your body like that, is what you feel. It's like every molecule, every atom in your body is vibrating at a high frequency like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you come out of your body like that, you can actually, if you actually realize it, it's like different than a dream, because when you're in a dream, it's like you're observing things.
Okay.
Or you'll see different things happen to you. But when you come out of your body, you have full consciousness.
Oh.
It's like and when you do that, you're so surprised at the time that it happens to you that you're like, oh my gosh, I can look around any direction that I want to. I can go anywhere I want. And when I did it, the best one that I had, I looked down at my hands, and when I looked at my hands, you could see your form, but you have a like a golden light around the edges of your body, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
when I did it, I walked downstairs, or went downstairs, I should say. You don't really walk because you can like float. I went downstairs, went and stood behind my it'd be like stepfather, and I watched everything he did on the computer, and he never even knew that I was there. And
Wow.
and I've had a couple of them. One of them that I had, about wanting to know the darker side of it.
Sure.
One of the experiences that I had with it was I came out of my body and I realized that it was happening. And I looked around and I started floating down the hallway. And when I floated down in the hallway, I floated up to the window and I thought to myself, if I want to, I can go anywhere I want. And so I started to go through the window and I floated outside the window, not outside of the house, but everything on the inside of the house was the same. But as soon as I crossed out to the outside of the house, everything was in reverse. Like a tree that was in our driveway was on the right side instead of the left. And I looked at it and I thought, this isn't right. Something isn't right here. And I got pulled right back into my body.
Wow.
So I don't know if they talk about HARP. Do you know what HARP is?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And you're supposed to be able to control the weather and it sends frequencies in the atmosphere or whatever. But and then they have the smart meters now. The last time that I ever had one out of body was here at the house, and I came out of my body, but it was like I came out of my hand this time, and the frequency was different. And it was like a dirty, almost black and white type situation. Like everything had a haze to it when I came out, and I thought, well, that isn't right. That doesn't seem right. But anyway, it feels so good while you're doing it. I thought to myself, because I broke free, and I thought, I want to travel, and I can go anywhere I want. So where I want to go is I want to go see if I could meet Valiant Thor.
Oh.
And when that happened, I shot straight up out of the roof of the house, shot straight up into space, and I was traveling just fast, like stars and lights were traveling past me. And it seemed like it was longer this time than it was any time that I've ever done it before.
Sure.
And the next thing I know, I arrive and I'm standing in an office, and it's I'm looking out the window, but it's in a high-rise, like a high-rise building, and so I'm looking out the windows. I can see that it's a futuristic-looking place with, like, craft flying around and different things, and there's a message on the board that says, I'm unable, like there's like a message board there, and it said, I am unable to speak to you at this time. And so then I shot right back into my body. Wow. But I work at a hospital, so I've been around a lot of people, and I worked with he was an anesthesiologist, and he had worked on an Indian reservation because he was part Indian. Okay. And I'm part Indian also. My grandmother was a Blackfoot Indian. Okay. Anyway, I was telling him about having those out-of-body experiences, and he said, what you were doing is, he said, the Indians call it traveling, and that you can come out of your body and you can move and go and do different things like that. I don't know if you've heard I heard a story on one of these shows where a guy, he'd went to Africa, and he could do the out-of-body deal, and he comes out of his body, and he's walking around in the village or, going around the village, and there's like a village shaman there, and he sees this shaman, and the shaman's doing the same thing, and he's watching him. And so the next day when he comes, wakes up, goes around the village or whatever, the shaman comes up to him and says, I saw you last night. And he wasn't going to say anything.
Oh, wow.
So I believe there's something to it, and like I say, I don't know if I think it's our spirit. When we come out of our body, we're in the spirit form, is the way I take it. That our spirit can actually leave. And so that's what I think heaven, they talk about your spirit coming out. That's what it's going to be like. But I tell you, it feels so good when you do it. You don't ever want to come back, if that makes sense to you.
So you've never had any experiences where you've seen these other entities that some people discuss? You've never had that kind of experience?
No, I have not had that happen to me. But I will tell you that when I was a young man and I was first having that happen to me, I did have something grab me while I was sleeping at my mom's house. She has a house that's over 100 years old, so I don't know if that was something that had came through or whatever, but I mean, it would happen just as I was laying down to go to sleep or whatever. Something would grab my hand or whatever. And one night, something grabbed I had my arms laying up above my head, and something grabbed me and jerked me up in the bed. And then the last time that it ever happened to me, I had my arm laying out on the side of the bed, and something grabbed a hold of my arm. And when it did, I reached over and grabbed at it. And when I grabbed at it, I said, "Don't you ever do that to me again. Don't you ever touch me again." And it never happened to me after that.
Now, were you able to feel it
I don't.
when you grabbed it? Were you able to
Yes,
feel?
I wasn't. What I could feel it grab my hand, but when I tried to grab it, I couldn't feel it
Okay.
through my other hand.
Okay.
But I just grabbed my hand like I was grabbing a hold of it.
Right.
So
Now, the reason I ask is because some
Go
people
ahead.
have reported that they felt this presence next to them and grabbed them and they've reached out and struck it and they said they actually hit something, and so that really
Oh my
fascinates
God.
me. Yeah. So I was curious if that was your experience as well.
Not at that time. No,
Okay.
no, it was not. I will tell you though, my where my aunt and them lived.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if this has anything to do with it doesn't really have anything to do with out of body, but where my aunt lived at when we were kids, we would go in and we would work the Ouija board in her in my cousin's bedroom,
Uh-huh.
and there was a bunch of kids that would come and do it. Just for something stupid to do. It was like in the late '80s. Just something stupid. Anyway, I went over to her house. We were swimming at the neighbors, and I went over into the back door of her house one day,
Mm-hmm.
and I had to use the bathroom because I didn't want to pee in the pool, of course, But
Yeah.
anyway, I'm standing there at the back door, and I'm drying off with the towel, and I'm looking back in the kitchen. And she's kind of got like a long, like a living room, and then a narrow kitchen right behind it. So I'm looking back in the kitchen there, and as I'm looking there, there's a trash can sitting in the corner, and this trash can looked like somebody grabbed a hold of it and just slid it right out the floor.
Oh.
And so I just I've had stuff like that happen to me, like seeing poltergeist stuff like that, like stuff move or whatever.
Right.
And so I just acted like it didn't even happen, and I just went on in and used the bathroom or whatever. I try not to acknowledge things like that because I don't want to give it power, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. Yeah.
And so I never said anything to anybody about ever seeing that or whatever. And I finally, when years later, that probably happened to me when I was 12 or 13, and then like when I was I'm guessing I was 19, 20 years old. Me and my aunt, she was the coolest aunt in the world. We'd go out to like for cruise. We'd go cruising, through town or the country. She liked to drag race and different things. So we're out cruising one night, and we are talking, and I told her, I said, "Hey, Jerry," I said, did you ever see that trash can in your house move?" And she never answered me. She wouldn't answer me. And so when we got back to her house, we got out of the truck. She said, "Come with me, boy." She said, "Come here and look at this. I want to show you something." And she said, when you go in the door there, she says, "Go look where that trash can's at." And so I walked in, and it wasn't there. And so I walked on in the other room, and I looked at it, and I said, she came in there behind me, and I said, "Well, I didn't know you started putting it in here because it's been sitting there for years." And she told me, she said, "Yeah." She said, anytime it starts to get full, she said, it's like somebody pushes it out in the middle of the hallway like it needs to be moved. And so then I start talking to her, and I asked her, I said, "Have you ever seen anything in here like that?" And she told me, she said that she had seen a dark entity like leaning over her, looking at her in bed one time. And so I kind of did some digging around, and I asked my mom, because they'd lived 2 houses down their whole life from it, if there was somebody that had died in there. And they weren't quite sure, but they thought maybe somebody had died in there, and their room is where this person's room would have been. And so years later, me and my cousin were sitting on the couch, and I'm talking to him, and they had a little dog, and her name was Miss Prissy. Well, this was years after we'd worked that Ouija board, but one of the weird things is she would go into that bedroom where we worked it, and she would sit down like right at the doorway, and she would growl and bark like there was somebody in that room at night. And
geez.
so she was sitting on my lap, and she was looking in the direction of the where that trash can used to be. And so I was sitting there, and I was petting her, and I was talking. And while I was talking to my cousin, we hear this static snap, like static electricity just snaps in the air. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Like
Sure.
just a loud, staticky sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so when that happened, the dog's ears perked up, and it's looking right back where that trash can was at. And so as just immediately, I was paying attention really good. And just immediately, that dog looked. I turned and looked in the doorway, and I see this half of an apparition peeking around the door frame, and it was all in white. I couldn't see any much detail on it, but it turned and it went around the corner, and I could hear like the footsteps, like dragging across the floor, and my cousin could hear it. And I could see the shadow of it going across the room in the back room where the trash can was at. And I said, did you hear that? And he said, yeah, I did. I said, I just saw a ghost right there. I said, it was peeking around the corner. Well, it was heading over towards where his bedroom was, where they worked the Ouija board. And so I got up, went, peeked around and looked. I couldn't find anything. There wasn't nobody in there. I knew there probably wasn't.
Sure. Wow.
But,
that's incredible.
Oh, I got one thing to add.
Sure.
I got one thing to add. When I was telling you that story about my grandfather the other night, and I said that the aliens looked like Bigfoot or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
The Venusians were human looking. He said that you couldn't tell the difference between them and what we look like. But when he took my father to Mars, they were observing that life form coming up out of the ground. They weren't like supposed to interact with it or anything. So I forgot to tell you that. I'm actually been fighting pneumonia, and that's why I sounded like I was out of breath the other night.
Oh,
So I kind of apologize for that.
No need to apologize, and I appreciate that clarification. I mean, it's an incredible story. I that one just really boggles my mind. But this is the paranormal.
But it boggles my mind too, and because I wasn't there, so I don't know, but about it if it was true or not. But my grandfather never lied to me, and I don't. But I know that people can make things up in different things, but
sure.
I don't believe that he did. I think that it was pretty legit. And have you ever seen the movie? Have you ever seen the movie Close Encounters with Richard Dreyfuss?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Do you know? You know that takes place up around Muncie, the Muncie area, in the movie? Did you know that?
Well, the Devil's Tower, I know, is the one.
Yeah,
location.
the Devil's Tower is that was out west. But if you watch the movie, he travels and goes out that way. But when you watch that movie, he's wearing a Ball State University shirt on.
Yeah, that's
and there's even stuff in the refrigerator from grocery stores where we went to. If you watch the movie, they'll open up the refrigerator, and there's Ross milk in there, and that used to be in old wooden cartons. Well, it's identical. But anyway, there's a McDonald's scene there on the movie, and that McDonald's is on McGalliard there in Muncie. But anyway, long story short, where he has his UFO experience, one of the weird things about it is he is sitting at the railroad tracks when the UFO goes over,
sure.
and he calls in, and he tells them, they said, well, where's your location at? And he said, I'm sitting on Cornbread Road. Well, one of the weird things about that story I'm telling you about my grandfather is my grandfather lived on Cornbread Road. So my dad grew up on Cornbread Road. So that would have been around the time they had that experience. So I got to talk to Travis Walton at one of the conferences that I went to.
Uh-huh.
And I told him that story, and then told him, I said, the weird thing is about the Cornbread Road thing. And he said, sometimes those things aren't just a coincidence.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's probably very true. I think that, I've often wondered that in watching movies, that sometimes if there isn't either a very concerted effort to drop things in plain sight, or if there is, at the very least, if there is some kind of intelligence working through them to make sure that some information comes out. I don't know. But it is curious. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that's true. Hey, I got an idea for you for a show. I don't know if you've thought of this or not, but when I was little, I used to sleepwalk a lot. My mom would catch me sleepwalking all the time. She would catch me at the back door, different places in the house.
Uh-huh.
But I just wonder if maybe there's a correlation between abductions and sleepwalking, because a lot of these younger kids now I've talked to, I ask every once in a while, I say, hey, when you were younger, did you ever sleepwalk? And they'll say, no, I've never sleptwalked. And I just wonder if maybe there's people out there that because I've had a lot of, I hate I almost thought about not calling in because some of the stuff that I'm telling sounds so fantastic, but I have had these experiences, and it's happened to me.
Sure.
I can't explain it, but
Oh.
I only thing that I can come up with is that my grandmother was Native American, which I know that they have a connection sometimes to the other side or whatever. And then
Oh, for sure.
my mom was a twin, and my
Mhm.
mom has this ability to where her and her twin, they live over 200 miles apart. And they will buy the same purses. They will buy the same clothes. They will know when each other's sick. They'll know when something's going on, and they'll call each other right out of the blue, and they'll already know it.
Yeah, there's a magic between twins, and it's not consistent to every set of twins. But there's been stories of twins separated at birth, adopted into different families, and they would fall in love with the girl of the same name, had children, named their kids the same, and there's just so many synchronicities there that it's got to be well beyond chance that they made the same decisions and choices throughout their lives. So I don't find that hard to believe at all that they may, in a sense, share a link no matter how far apart. That makes perfect sense.
On the on the ghost thing, something that I've thought about in the past is maybe sometimes we are the ghosts. And what I mean by that is my grandmother passed away. My mom and aunt, and there was five of the kids,
Hmm.
and they all lived in this house. When my grandmother passed away, the neighbors they had bought the house. Well, they fixed it up, and then there were different families that would live there, but nobody would really stay there for any long period of time.
Hmm.
And so I would tell my mom. I started telling my mom. I said, "Mom," I said, "I always have this dream that I'm in the house, and I said I'm looking around at the house, and I said whenever I see the people that are living there now come, I will go down to my grandfather's room, which was my grandmother and grandfather lived in separate room or stayed in separate rooms.
Hmm.
I would go into the room in my grandfather's room, and there would be a door there, and I would go sneak out the back and take off." Well, I started telling my mom that dream, and I got a few sentences into it, and she finishes it. And so we go and we start to tell my cousin the same dream, and she finishes it.
Oh,
So then
wow.
we go and talk to my aunts, and they finish the dream. We just would barely mention the dream, and they would tell it exactly like I just told you.
Wow.
So what my hypothesis or theory is on that is that maybe sometimes we our souls and spirits are grieving a loss to such a degree that we will visit back in the places that we loved and go and see our loved ones, and that what some people believe are apparitions are actually the spirits of those alive that's
Hmm.
going back to see the house. That's just
Oh, that's a
a
great
thought.
idea.
That's,
That's a brilliant idea, actually. And I think that there's merit to that for sure. I think that, what's the differentiate an out of body experience from a haunting? I don't know. Um, it seems to make sense. I don't disagree with you at all.
yeah.
At least in
Well,
some
buddy, I
cases.
appreciate. Oh, go ahead. Go
No,
ahead.
at least in some cases. I mean, of course, not all of them, but that would explain some some
Correct.
some some hauntings, I think, for sure. But no, I appreciate you
Yeah.
calling in and being a part of the show, brother. Thank you so much.
How much more time do you have? Have you got very much more time, or are we getting close?
Well, no, we're already overtime, but if you have something more you want to share, go
Oh,
ahead.
I'll tell you. I'll just call in again, and I'll share it with you later on. But anyway, I had another experience with the. Remember, I told you about the eyes. I saw the eyes in the woods or whatever.
Yes.
I'll tell you another time. That way, you can have some more detail in another show.
Okay, perfect,
But
brother.
I appreciate. My name's Adam, and I'm from southern. I live in southern Indiana. I'm originally from northern Indiana, but yeah, my name. I don't really want to give out too much
Sure.
detail
No,
about things
absolutely.
because I work in public.
Yeah.
I work in a hospital, so
Okay.
they already think I'm. They enjoy it, but they think I'm nuts anyway, so they don't need to add to it.
No, it's a pleasure meeting you, Adam, and thank
um,
you so much for calling in, brother.
I appreciate it, man. I'll tell you. I working in a hospital. I hear a lot of stories about ghosts and stuff in the hospital, and I've got some pretty decent ghost stories told by nurses
Please.
and some experiences that I've had at the hospital too. So we'll
Well,
talk about that at another time too.
oh, sounds great, Adam. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
All right, I appreciate it. Thanks everybody in the chat room. I really get a kick out of everybody. I'm sorry that I held you up over time,
Oh,
but
no, it's fine.
you have a good night. Happy Paranormal Portal to everybody.
All right, Adam. Thanks again.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Very cool. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us, ladies and gentlemen. But thank you so much for being a part of the show tonight. Thank you to all of you who have come in to watch and listen, and those that are chatting. Good night to you, Kathy. I appreciate that. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I don't mind going longer, guys. I mean, the night terrors. If I'm just going to read stories, they're going to be an hour. But if I get calls and stuff, I'm fine with going longer. As long as we got a good discussion going on, I'm happy to continue. So it's not cut in stone. I can start the show or stop it whenever I choose. And so if we have guests on that want to share, I'm happy to let you share. So that's always an option. But But yeah, I do have to close out for now. I see Rob's calling. Let me just get to this one. Just got another call here, so let's get to this one. Is that you, Rob? Oh, he hung up. I was just going to get to him, but yeah, Rob, I'm sorry, brother. Your call dropped before I could answer it. I just clicked on it and it disappeared. But I guess that's going to be it for tonight. Oh, there he is again. He called back. So let's hear what's on his mind. Rob, are you there?
That's going to be it for tonight. Oh, there he is. Call back. What's on his mind?
Hey, Rob. Hello.
Hey, I didn't mean to call you so. I didn't imagine it was already 11:17 here in Michigan.
It's fine, brother. What's on your mind, man?
So how's it going? Hey, listen, before I let you, it's only about a 5-minute story. This has been bugging me for a while. You got a minute here?
Oh, sure. Go ahead, brother. It's great to hear from you.
So, hey, thanks for a great show as always, and I'd be calling late. Here's this thing. I was this happened on January or last New Year's Day. I got off work as such, and I worked close by home and whatnot, and I went to my friend's house. So it was nice, fresh snowfall. And mind you, I live in the suburbs, and so I'm walking home from my friend's house, and he lives 3 blocks, 4 blocks. This is 3:00 in the morning, New Year's Day, and so I'm walking home, fresh snow, and I'm looking in the street, because I walked in the street off the sidewalk, and I see footprints, and they were perfect footprints of a small child. The foot was maybe 4 inches long, 2 inches wide, and it was it was cold out, and this footprint was totally without a sock. It was a perfect print it looked like pretty much a human.
Like a barefoot?
So I was
it
following the footprint.
Rob, was it barefoot or was it with a shoe?
It was barefoot.
Okay.
You could see 5 toes.
Yep.
You could see the arch. You could see the okay. So I'm following the footprint down the path to my house, which is about maybe 2 blocks. So I'm following it, and then my house is like 50 feet, and then these little footprints go up my driveway to my house.
Oh.
So I'm like following them. Now, during this travel, which is probably about a 4-minute walk, I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, there's a little person out here. What are they doing? They lose their mom, their dad. I mean, it looks like a little child.
Yeah.
So I'm looking around the neighborhood. I'm following these footprints. And it gets up into my driveway. And it goes to my house and turns up to my driveway to the back of my truck. And then at the end of my truck by the bumper, the footprints turn left, and they go toward this big maple tree in the middle of my yard. And they walk towards the tree. Now I'm following it through the grass, and the footprints are still in the grass up to the tree.
Okay.
The footprints stop. They stop. Now I'm like, now what's going on? So I'm looking around the tree, then I'm going up and down the whole block. We're looking for these prints. So basically, the prints tracked from my friend's house to my driveway to my truck to the tree. Then they're gone. So now I'm not thinking anything, and I'm looking for a kid, a little kid. I mean, I'm like, oh my gosh, this was 3 a.m. on January 1st.
Right.
I'm looking, can't find nothing. And I went to bed that night, and I couldn't even sleep because it was just the weirdest thing. They just stopped at the tree, and that's really all I had to say about this. It was just, I've been wanting to tell people this. I told my friends whom I came from walking to my house, and he blew it off. But I just thought it was creepy and eerie.
Yeah.
And I've been looking around, and I went on the news the next day to see what's going on, and that was it. I told you to be short, but I just didn't want to get that off my chest because, man, it's really bugging me where these little footprints came from.
Yeah.
They stop. It could be anything, but what is it?
Right.
And, I caught you late. I'm sorry. I'll let you go, but I just wanted to get it out to the people in chat and everybody else. So,
well, thanks for calling in, Rob. I appreciate that.
anyways, that's it.
That's really creepy. Yeah, I don't know what to tell you. It sounds like you were being visited by someone there, but yeah, I think that's just going to be one of those mysteries unless you find more footprints.
Yeah, I'm sorry to call early. I saw you on the thing. I called the phone. So.
No
Anyway,
worries.
have a great night, Brent. Thanks.
All right, brother. Take care. Thanks for calling in and being a part of the show.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Very cool. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Now that's officially going to do it for us tonight. So we did go over time, but that's okay. Like I said, I don't mind. It's not cut in stone that we got to stop at any specific time. It's just generally I do a shorter version of the night terrors or the shorter version of the portal. But we actually went almost an hour and a half tonight, so which is great. Again, I'm fine with it. If you guys got something to say, I've got time to listen to you for sure. So thank you all for being here and being a part of our journey. And please make sure to like and subscribe. If you're not already subscribed, please like the stream as well. That goes a long way to help us out. Check out the podcast if you haven't. That's on Pandora, Spotify, iHeart, and iTunes, and a bunch of other platforms. Just search for the Paranormal Portal wherever you find your podcasts. And let's see, check out the Teespring site, of course, if you're looking for some portal gear, shirts, sweaters, sweatshirts, whatever, and mugs, and a lot of other things are out there on the Teespring site. If you like the songs, go over to the Bandcamp. All the links are in the description for any of the portal related stuff. That helps to fund our journey into the paranormal portal because it's not cheap. So anyway, guys, love you bunches. Hope you guys are doing great, and thank you so much for staying late with us as we took these extra calls and had a great discussion with a lot of great people. So, but that's going to wrap it up for us. We love you all. Be good, be kind, be nice. Take care of each other. Help each other out. Find the magic in every day, and remember to laugh as much as you can. Donna and I will be back tomorrow night, so definitely tune in and check it out. But until then, sweet dreams. And happy birthday to Aussie. Love you, brother. Happy birthday. I hope you had a great day. I almost forgot, but I remembered because you said in the chat, thank you for pointing that out. I would have hated to have missed that, but I hope you had a wonderful birthday and have fun celebrating however you're celebrating, and but be responsible. All right. Love you guys. Good night.